explain to you. It is more efficient, and it is cheaper, and it has got less impact on the victims of sexual offenses. You have got a powerful tool as the Department of Education in your hands to, at the level of children going to school, start the process to prevent the moral decay of our population, as the first thing. And secondly, to introduce children to the dangers as a possible victim of sexual offenses. And thirdly, to make it very clear and to put in place systems that would prevent sexual abuse in our schools. Let me say this. We've got wonderful legislation in this country, more so than any other country that I know of. And this is recognized by the United Nations and many, many other countries. There's enough laws in this country to afford each and every person decent protection. Also, those potential victims of sexual offenses. But those laws are not being applied properly. And I'll start, I've said, with one piece of legislation, and that is the Children's Act, Act 38 of 2005. Firstly, it states that there must be an indaba like this. They call it something else, with intersectoral people and organizations that deals with these matters. And as you can see in my presentation, those people are the Department of Education, Department of Social Development, it is the NPA, it is the police, it is the Department of Health, the prosecutors, and then lastly, the judiciary. Okay? That has never happened in the Eastern Cape. There's not a monthly meeting where these role players are represented and talk about incidents of child protection, sexual violence, and abuse in schools and anywhere else. If it's not happening, what will happen? Sexual abusers will go free, and they will repeat and repeat and repeat. And talking about repeat, we notice that the sexual abuser has got a propensity of being a serial sexual abuser or harasser. What do I mean? He do it in this school. The school catch him out sometimes, fire him. Next month he get a job in Limpopo. He's doing it there again. Next month he's caught out. He's fired. Where does he go? He goes to Mpumalanga. He's doing it again. Why? Because we are non-compliant as a Department of Education with the provisions of the Children's Act. That's why. How are we non-compliant? I'm explaining. Firstly, Section 126, 1A, the Children's Act, it's in the presentation. It states that prior to the appointment of any person that's going to work with children, the Form 30 must be completed and sent off to DSD. To do what? To establish if the person that you now wish to appoint as a teacher, his name is appearing in the Child Protection Register. It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm asking the question. There's another provision in the Act. I've quoted it here. I don't have time to page to and fro my presentation. That indicates that the person that applies for a job where he's going to work with children is compelled to tell you if his name appears in the Child Protection Register. Do we ask them even? No. Can I talk about the consequences? Let me go to another provision in the same act quoted in my presentation. It states that even if you make a finding of child abuse in one of your disciplinary procedures, you've got a duty to fill in Form 29 and to report it to the Director, National Child Protection. Do we do it? Is there anyone here that can honestly put up your hand and say, in the Eastern Cape, we're doing it? We're not doing it. Okay. So, how do we expect to protect our children, to curb sexual harassment, and to curb the abuse and the rape of children in our schools if we don't comply with the very basics of the Act? Is there an answer? The only answer is we must make sure that we comply. Now you see, if you've been part, as a role player, of the Indaba that Section 5 of the Children's Act speak about, you would have known this as a department. You see where I'm going? Because why? I would have told you. I would have assisted you. I would have helped you. Do you know that the HOD of the Department of Education may delegate someone from his department, her department in this case, to have free access to the Child Protection Register? Do you have such a person? No, you don't. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm trying to help you. I'm not fighting. I'm trying to help you. And don't think I'm trying to help you alone. I'm trying to help the children that are getting raped in our schools, where we send them to be nurtured and protected. Okay. So, prevention is the one simple thing we can do from our schools. Not only by completing not only by doing the Form 30. No. There's many other things that we can do that I've set out here, but let me talk to it. One, prior to the appointment of any teacher or staff member at the school, we can do proper vetting. Proper vetting. It means we can check his criminal record. It means we can have a questionnaire where we can pose certain questions that would better protect the children of the school where we're going to appoint this person. We must do Form 30. We can do advocacy and many other things. Amongst them, is there a sexual harassment policy in place in the Department of Education? Don't be ashamed. The judiciary, have you seen in the news how many times judges and magistrates has been prosecuted in the past few years for sexual harassment? Have you noticed that? You've seen that. I'm pointing a finger to you, I'm pointing far back. Okay? We only got, when Chief Justice Meyer got appointed 4 months ago, our sexual harassment policy. So if you don't have one, we've just beaten you by 4 months. Can I make that available to you, Mr. Pitter? Can I make the questionnaire before you get appointed as a magistrate available to you? There's questions not like, do you have a previous conviction? Have you ever appeared in a court on a criminal charge? We're not interested if you're convicted or not. And if you answer yes, give us the detail. Which case? We'll draw the case and we'll check it out. I think we can expect the same thorough checking and vetting of those people that work with our children. especially if we look at the incidents of sexual assault in our schools. The second aspect. Now it's going to happen. I'm leaving that one now. The rest I've written. I'm jumping and I'm running. Now we get a report in our schools. The teacher has raped a child in that school. What do we do? I've got colleagues from the NPA sitting here. What do we do as a department? We make a circus out of it. We jump in our cars. People from head office in the province, psychologists, social workers, teachers, everyone go to that school. Nah. Am I right? Is this what's happening? Yes. What are we effectively doing? We commit two potential offenses: defeating the ends of justice and the contravention of Section 15 of the National Prosecuting Act. We're interfering with a possible prosecution. The offense, the penalty for that is 15 years imprisonment. Okay, what are we supposed to do? Let me list to you. I can go on, program director, as you can see, but I'm just going to list it and get out of here now. Okay, the first thing you need to do is you need to report it to the police. And saying that you've reported it is not enough. You need to get the mass number of the case docket so that you can forward it to your provincial office. Second thing, you complete Form 22. That is sent off to both the police as well as the Department of Social Development. Why? So that we can detect if that child is in need of care and protection. Okay? Do we talk to the child about the incident? Okay. You don't know. No. Do we send a social worker to talk to the child? No. Do we send a psychologist, Mr. Peter? No. Why? Why not? Because we're going to contaminate that poor child's evidence. We're going to wreck the case before it reaches court. Okay? What have we done by coming down like a military force on that school? We compromised the identity of that child, and we compromised the privacy of the child, which is unconstitutional. We are not protecting that child. If that child can be identified, the child's going to be victimized, taunted. You see where I'm going? Colleagues, my colleagues from the NPA will tell you that the sexual offences units of the South African police and the NPA employ professional people, forensic social workers, forensic psychologists who received specialized training from the FBI and all sorts of other institutions on how to deal with these children, how to preserve their evidence, how to prevent the evidence from being contaminated, and preparing them from testifying to testify in court. It's difficult enough to secure a conviction. They do more. So what are you supposed to do? You report to the police, you do Form 22, you get the mass number, okay? And you stay in your lane. What is your lane? Education. Education. Okay? So if a social worker or a psychiatrist is needed, it will only manifest a month or two later if you've observed that child and you notice that the child is now got an educational problem. You follow? And even then, you're not going to consult with that child. You're going to receive the information And you're going to ensure that the child get the additional support that the child needs for educational purposes. Okay? Colleagues, this message, if it's taken to heart, will ensure countless more successful prosecutions in court and the removal and the safeguard of countless children in our schools. This message, if it's communicated, Program Director, to the HOD and the MEC, will prevent the appointment of sexual predators in our schools in the Eastern Cape. Will save countless girls from being sexually harassed, molested, raped, or sexually assaulted. And let there be clarity in everyone's mind. You take a young child that is raped very close to being a disabled child. And in some cases, a disabled child for the rest of that child's life. Let me be clear about one thing. Let me be very clear about one thing. The sexual harassment of girls, children, and women, the sexual assault of them, and the rape of this vulnerable group of people is the one way, it's the one way in which you prevent women to be properly empowered in this country. And it's a sure way. And it's our duty to ensure that we do all we can to prevent that in our school. We give our children to the schools, to the Department of Education, not to be raped, to be nurtured and educated. Mr. Program Director, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Advocate Husi. I'm from NPA, Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit. I'm going to be very short. I see that Mr. Van Vuren has taken our time. There are just few things that I just want to remind the members that we should take into consideration. There is, we've got an obligation, a legal obligation, to report when we know or when we suspect that a child is a victim of any sexual encounter. So it's an obligation, you have to do it. I'll give you an example of one of the cases that happened here, that the principal failed to report that incident. That is Section 454 of the Sexual Offences Act. But then again, when you go to Section 2 of the Domestic Violence Act, that one on its own, there are functionaries, people who are categorized as functionaries. These people are people that are working with children, or people with disability, or older people. They've got an obligation to report. So Department of Education, even then, upon your assessment, and you see that this one is a victim or might be a victim, you've got an obligation to report. Children's Act as well, Section 110, it says so. You'll find that in the Domestic Violence Act, it says that your name will be kept in confidential, because we understand that many cases, people, they don't report because they don't want to be their names to be disclosed and get involved in. If you remember, we had a case some time ago here when a child reported to the principal that he has been sexually abused by the teacher. And then the principal didn't report that, didn't take any action. For some other reasons, the child died. And then we had to go to that school. We had a consultation with the principal. The principal admitted that yes, he got a statement from this child, but he kept the statement in the drawer. We asked, where are other children that are friends with the deceased? We've got 10 of them. When we found out, all of them were also abused by the teacher. But the principal never reported that matter. And then we found out all of those children were infected. Had the principal reported that matter as soon as possible, he could have saved other children. So the other matter is, Mr. Van Vuren has reported a national register. When someone is dismissed, put that name, his name in the national register for sex offenders, so that he cannot be employed in any area where you can work with children and also. Then the other burning issue is a case of bail. It happens that a learner commits an offense, which is rape or murder. And then this learner will be arrested, get bail in court, and comes back to the same school where the victim is schooling. Then we've been saying that, can't we then, this perpetrator be put into another school to avoid issues of secondary victimization to that land? Because one case recently, it happened exactly this way, and then the learner ended up committing suicide. Then the other issue is the issue of, in our own research, I like it when the MEC said that we need to do research. There's a lot of research that is needed. Most of this, in this issue of teenage pregnancy, most of the kids who got pregnant, they are raped from home. That is where the child spends most of the time. And then when this child got pregnant, the child is pulled out from school because now they are embarrassed. They pull the child out from school. But the question we've been asking is that, is there any database from Department of Education to say that we've got so much dropouts, so and so, and report that to DSD so that DSD can follow up and see if that child is not a child in need of care and protection. Same applies then, if DSD is here, we've got also an issue of children with disabilities. They don't go and do home visit and see if those children are not being victimized. We found later that a child has been victimized. In one case, it happened that this one, who has been staying at home, has been victimized by the father, got pregnant, delivered at home. The child died, the newborn child died after 2 months. We had that 4 years later. We had to do the investigation, and to the extent that we have to exhume the one who was buried so that we can do DNA. And then, same applies, if this was followed, the issues that we have with people with disability, more especially those who have got challenges in terms of speaking and they need sign language. When they are victimized, we don't have, you found out, when we ask a sign language translator or interpreter to come and assist us, even the sign language interpreter could not speak to them because they have never been to special school. And it becomes a challenge. We can't get a statement from this person. We can't tell her rights and all the stuff, but we need to follow up in all the people with disability. Due to time, I think other things we'll deal with them in our commissions, but my colleague will just touch into a few things.
Yes, thank you, Advocate Khuse. I'm not going to touch much on Thudzela Care Centers. We did hand over the presentation on Thudzela Care Centers, which I think we will touch on in the commissions tomorrow. But just basically, Thudzela Care Centers are multidisciplinary centers that were created or established by the National Prosecuting Authority or by government to take care of rape victims or sexual offenses victims. Now, if you remember, in the past, people used to be sent to and fro from the police station to the hospital and so on. Back to the police station, perhaps, to the prosecutor, but now two Thudzela Care Centers have all these services under one roof to take care of victims of rape. And also, just to summarize, we'd like to say we have these Thudzela Care Centers as one-stop centers. In the Eastern Cape, we have 11 of those. We have one in East London. In the Buffalo City, we have 2. In East London, we have one at Cecilia Makiwane Hospital. And at Qongce or King Williamstown, we have one at Grey Hospital. The centers, as I said, they are multidisciplinary. And the people at the center are professionals. That is, you get your doctors, your police officers, you get social workers, you get lay counselors within the center. You get forensic doctors and forensic nurses that are going to examine a victim of GBV or sexual offenses. And these centers are basically the NPA's or South Africa's anti-rape strategy, as well as a tool of ours when it comes to the national strategy on GBV. So what we'd like to emphasize is that educators as well need to utilize Thudzela Care Centers. What you will find there is your psychosocial, medical, legal services, victims of gender-based violence. Other things that we would like you to note as educators or as the Department of Education is that when victims come to the center, yes, we try and apply a victim-centered approach. Our method is court-directed and prosecutor-guided. Now, what that means is we try by all means to ensure that victims come to a victim-friendly space. They are able to express themselves in the way that they would like to express themselves. And also, we try by all means to ensure that whatever happens there is court-directed, meaning there's also a TCC state advocate that is going to direct how the case goes. Meaning, if a victim comes and states their story, there must be a police officer that assists them with statement taking. From the statement taking, the TCC case manager also directs that case. For instance, if there are any gaps within that case, then the TCC case manager will see to it that those gaps are actually filled through prosecutor-guided investigations, meaning leading the actual investigation and liaising with the investigative officer. So that when we get to court, these cases are actually cases that are sure to fire. In that way, we try and reduce the case cycle times. I think that is something that we needed to clear, because I think I heard the MEC talking about reducing the cases. No, that is not what we do. We do want cases to come to us, but what we try to do through Thudzela objectives is to reduce the case cycle times. Meaning, if a case ordinarily, a case of rape or a case of GBV, would take about a year to complete or 2 years to complete, through utilization of Thudzela Care Centers, the professionals within there, the DNA evidence, and everything that is used within their psychosocial assistance as well, we try by all means to ensure that that case will be had in as little a time as possible. Ordinarily, it's supposed to be 6 to 9 months only. That is ordinarily, meaning when we have all the resources. One other thing that we'd like to point out to Department of Education is that, yes, We do see individuals that are affected by most of the forms of gender-based violence or all forms of gender-based violence like domestic violence, teenage pregnancy, maintenance and trafficking in persons. But what I would like to point out is that at TCCs we find a lot of things when it comes to teenage pregnancy. And I find that this is something that affects most learners at school. Now, you would be so surprised to see that with teenage pregnancy at Truzela care centers and at hospitals, we find that there's a whole lot of criminality that is intertwined with these cases or within these cases. You could find that teenage pregnancy cases reported, only to find that this child has been abused by the father, only to find that this child has been abused by a teacher. This child has been abused by a member of the community, and they were sent to that member by the mother. Why? Because of economic vulnerabilities. So there's a whole lot of things that we're actually unmasking as we are looking at these cases of teenage pregnancies. And I remember in one instance in Gqeberha, we found that there were a lot of teenage pregnancies only because there was a trafficking agent within the community. And these children are pregnant because the traffickers also want to use the children as well. They want to exploit these children as well. So there's a whole lot of things that we are unmasking through these cases. And the Department of Education as well needs to be aware of instances of trafficking in persons. Remember, this country is also referred to as one of low-income countries, isn't it? So once the situation is like that economically in a country, that is likely to attract a lot of traffickers into that country. So we need to be able to educate educators, number one, parents, number two, and communities to look into those signs of trafficking and to ensure that incidents of trafficking are actually reported. I have touched on where the Thuthuzela's are, especially in the Buffalo City, but we have a whole lot of Thuthuzela care centers. We have another one in Gqeberha, Cradock, Komani, Libode, Butterworth, Bizana, Lusigisig, and Matatiela. And all of them are in regional hospitals. And we place them specifically at regional hospitals because we want them to feed into regional courts, so that cases that emanate from there, from the Thuthuzela Care Center, they are offloaded into the regional courts. And in that way, it's easier for us because we also have TCC state advocates that are placed within those courts. And remember, the beneficiaries of the Thuthuzela Care Center, they include everyone. It is men, yes, men do get raped. It is men, it is women, it is children, it's the elderly, and it is also persons who are mentally or physically disabled or mentally or physically impaired, and it is also the members of the LGBTQIA, that is your lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, queer, intersex, and asexual. So the members of all those communities are also welcome at Thuthuzela Care Centers. And also, remember, suspected cases of sexual assault may also be referred to TCCs. These can be referred through clinic inquiries, through referrals from psychosocial professionals. You also have that at the Department of Education. Also, DSD has those psychosocial professionals. I am trying to be very fast, but to give you as much information as I can. And also reports from community members who suspect sexual abuse of children, adults, and the elderly or vulnerable persons. We also entertain those reports. Remember, each and everyone has a duty to report. That is according to SORMA legislation, which is sexual offenses legislation, domestic violence legislation, and also the Children's Act. right, I'm not going to touch on how the Tuduzela Care Center operates because of time, but rest assured it is a victim-friendly space. We try and stabilize you as much as possible, and then we're able to examine you forensically. And then we can continue with your case and offer you psychosocial care as well as medical legal assistance. Now, this is important for everyone sitting in the room. What is it that survivors should know? We try and tell everybody about this, whether it's on radio or on TV. It's very post the incident of rape. That's very advisable. It is also important, it is possible to report a case of rape post the expiry of 72 hours. When 72 hours has lapsed, don't get discouraged and think that you can't report. Come, do report that case at a Tuduzela Care Center nogal, yes. Now, a case can be opened despite the perpetrator being unknown to the victim. And I think that has been proven in what was the case, the Gqeberha case? Not that one. It was that case of a business lady in Gqeberha, if you remember. It was concluded this year, yes, because when she reported, she was not able to identify the perpetrator, but it was Endikawa's case. Now, this year, we were able to find the perpetrator. And also, remember, anyone can be a perpetrator. It doesn't matter how, I don't know, how they look. You know, it doesn't matter how handsome they could look. Remember, anyone can be a perpetrator of rape or a perpetrator of gender-based violence. I usually say, never judge a book by its cover. Could be a pastor or a doctor or even a prosecutor. All right, anyone can be a victim of rape, so people need to be on the lookout at all times and be very careful. And remember, you can get TCC services, that is Tuduzela Care Center services, despite not being emotionally ready to proceed with the case. Yes, we want you to come forward. Let us take the evidence, the necessary evidence. You will be given psychosocial care. And when you change your mind later on, we can proceed with your case, but we will not force you to proceed with the case. Also, which is what we find in rural areas, a lot of families would accept payment as an apology for rape. That is not on. Never accept payment as an apology for rape. Rape is a crime. Rape is a crime. Okay. So whenever you come across rape, please go and report to your nearest police station. We work with police stations as well. Or alternatively, you can come straight to a Tuduzela Care Center. We will assist you there to register a case. Now, we came here because we saw